Hello, students. My name is Dr. Pushkar Lele, and I'm the assistant professor and head of the department at the Department of Performing Arts, Modern College of Arts, Science and Commerce, Shivajinagar, Pune 5. As part of the generic IKS project, today we are going to talk about ancient Indian music. So let me share my PPT with you. These are the broad topics that we are going to cover in our discussion. Part of this would be uh, as part of this discussion here in the video, and part of this will be as in the form of the PDF notes that you will receive. So let us begin our session for today. As we all know, Indian musical traditions are inextricably woven in the cultural fabric of India. Indian music is a tradition in transition, a living, breathing entity that continues to grow, adapt, and imbibe influences from both musical as well as extra musical sources. Tradition and change are not opposite. In fact, no tradition can stay alive and relevant without undergoing constant change. Music in India was not looked upon as art as the conventional meaning of the term, but has always been deeply rooted in spirituality and was considered as Nadopasana, or the worship of and through Nad or sound. Our philosophical texts are replete with the belief that the most powerful means of self realization is through upasana or practice of Nad. In India, the most commonly used word to refer to music is Sangeet. The ancient definition of Sangeet takes a wider perspective to include vocal and instrumental music as well as dance. Indian dance and music today have separately achieved an individual identity of their own and enjoy great stature. Indian music is comprised of and operates through six musicological categories, namely primitive music, that is Adima Sangeet, folk music or Loka Sangeet, art or classical music, that is Kala or Shastrokta Sangeet, religious music or Dharma Sangeet, popular music or Jana Sangeet, and finally confluence or fusion music or Sangam Sangeet. These categories are based on why, how, and for whom a particular music is created, its constituent elements, their structure, aesthetics, that is, their Saundarya Vichar, and the experience that they intend to give us. They are not isolated or watertight compartments, but have a continuous interaction or give and take between them. All these categories together form an inseparable and priceless component of the intangible heritage of India. The vastness of our landmass and our civilizational antiquity has resulted in the flow of music of all these categories for centuries. Indian music plays a vital role in preserving the diverse cultural identities and yet promising a national unity in the number of ways. Unity in diversity has been a defining feature of the cultural sensibility and outlook of Bharat since ages. Let us now look at the music in the Vedic period. So, Indian music has a lot of influence of the Hindu mythology, according to which Lord Brahma created the four Vedas, namely the Rigveda, Samaveda, Atharvaveda, and Yajurveda. Lord Brahma is said to have passed down the knowledge of music to Lord Shiva, who in turn passed it on to Goddess Saraswati, the goddess of knowledge and wisdom. Saraswati then passed it on to Narad Muni, who taught further this art to Gandharvas, that is, the celestial musicians, the Apsaras and Kinnaras. Thus, it is Narad Muni who is credited to get music from its celestial abode to earth. Samaveda, one of the four Vedas, is the earliest liturgical text sect to music, of which we have definite knowledge and forms the core of India's ancient civilizational past. Vedic music, which was entirely ritualistic and devotional in nature, consisted of the chanting of hymns or ruchas in praise of elemental gods, uh, and were sung in a well articulated manner involving definite accents, that is, aghat. This music, which was developed by great sages or rishis, was called as Margi Sangeet. The traditional method of chanting the verses of the Samaved uses only three notes: the Udatt, that is the high pitch, the Anudatt, that is the low pitch, and the Swarita, which is the middle pitch. Later on, more notes or swars were added to these pre Vedic tunes, and the Samaved verses were then chanted using seven notes. Apart from recitation, it also incorporated musical instruments such as veena, mridangam, vanchi, etc. This Samag Sangeet or Samagana music is believed to have been the source of all later musics in India, evolving into successive traditions of Jati Gayan and Prabandha Gayan. Uh, Let us now look at the music in the post Vedic period. So, music in India flourished in Ramayana Mahabharata periods, that is around 500 to 300 BC, as well as the later Buddhist, Jain, and Mauryan periods around 500 to 100 BC. The Jain texts mention a variety of musical instruments. Chandragupta Maurya, Emperor Ashok, and King Kanishka were great patron kings who encouraged and promoted music. The Gupta period, that is around 320 to 540 CE or the Christian era, is considered as a golden period for arts and culture and is marked with a great degree of excellence in literature and other arts, including music. Samudragupta, the second Gupta king, himself was a poet and veena player. There are ample references of music in Kalidasa's famous works of that period, like Meghadutam, Shakuntalam, and Raghuvansham. During this period, music no longer remained purely religious in nature, that is Margi Sangeet, but was also greatly used for entertainment purposes, that is Deshi Sangeet. The Natya Shastra by Bharata Muni, 200 BC to 200 CE, is considered as one of the first authoritative texts on dramaturgy or the science of drama or theatre, which evolved which involved the usage of Sangeet. Chapters 28 to 34 of Natya Shastra exclusively talk about music. A following text, Brihadeshi by Matanga Muni, is a great treatise on regional music which makes a clear distinction between Margi and Deshi Sangeet. From 600 CE, India saw a series of invasions and Muslim incursions from emerging cultures of Arabia, Persia, and Central Asia. This brought waves of external influences which began interacting with the largely insular musical traditions that existed till then. The advent of the Islam and Sufism at the end of the 12th century brought influences of Persian music and culture. It is around this time that the separation between the two major art traditions of India, art music traditions of India, the Hindustani and the Carnatic as we know them today, began. Sangeet Ratnakar, an important treatise by Sharangadev around 1210 to 1247 CE, provides a link between this earlier singular or Ekasandh Jalamantail musical tradition and the plural cosmopolitan tradition that developed later. Amir Khusro, a prodigal genius musician, poet, around 1253 to 1325 CE, is an important personality of this era who is said to have written 5 lakh poems in Persian, Turkish, Arabic, Brajabhasha, Hindavi, and Khadiboli, and was supposed to have invented the tabla, sitar, created new rags and forms like kawali, tarana, etc. Raja Man Singh Tomar of Gwalior, around 1486 to 1516 AD, was a secular and generous patron of the arts who himself composed Vishnupadas, Drupadas, Horis, and Dhamars, leading to a firm consolidation of the Drupad form. The Bhakti movement, predominantly of the Vallabh cult during the 14th and 15th century, that swept the length and breadth of our holy land, directly contributed to the theory and practice of music. It impacted Hindustani classical music as well as um, through Ashtachhap, Pushti, and Haveli Sangit traditions. Musically inclined great saint poets like Surdas, Haridas, Meera, Tulsidas, Kabir, Vallabhacharya, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Swami Haridas, Jaydev, Vidyapati, Chandidas, Narasimha Bhagat, Jnaneshwar, Tukaram, Purandardas, etc., contributed huge devotional works and infused a new life in Indian music through during these difficult times. By the end of 16th century, the Mughal Empire was firmly established after a period of great instability. This coincided with the consolidation of musical forms like Drupad Dhamar, Qawwali, etc. The royal courts of Akbar, Jahangir, Shah Jahan patronized great musicians like Tansen, Baiju Tarang Gopal, Bilas Khan, Chattar Khan, Dilrang Khan, etc. Muhammad Shah Rangile was the last Mughal ruler who was himself a musician and a generous patron of the arts. In his court were three musicians, namely Niyamat Khan, or who is popularly known as Sadarang, Firoz Khan, who is popularly known as Adarang, and Manarang, who profoundly contributed to a newly emerging form named Khayal. The changes in patronage from temples to royal courts resulted in a qualitative change in the content, nature, and presentation of music. Towards the late 18th century, forms like Khayal, Tappa, Tumri, Dadra had become much more popular than its predecessor form, the Drupad. Uh, Let us now look at the two major traditions of art music traditions of India. Music in Natyashastra times was based on the concept of murchana, that is the shifting of the tonic. Tonic म्हणजे सा, सारेगमपधनी मधला सा, resulting into various tonic scales. These different scales are said to have been later matured and evolved into rags. A rag can loosely be described as a basic scale pattern or a generative tonal framework or a kind of melodic mold or ground plan or a system of developing a melodic scheme upon a scale. It is a pattern of musical notes comprising of specific movements of swars and lay used as a basis for improvisation. A rag is often considered as a deity to be invoked and bears a distinctive personality of its own. Thus, the rag is not merely a mechanical arrangement of swars in ascending and descending order. A rag is also not merely different permutations and combinations of select swars. It is only through the nuanced movements of these swars on the lines of the rag landscape that a rag truly comes alive. A rag is regulated through codified rules and is recognized in the manner in which the swars move on its scale or what is called as its chalan. The characteristic phrases of a rag or what is called as the pakad and other such grammatical attributes. Two rags belonging to the same scale, or in other words, having the same swars, can sound very different from each other due to the differences in the rag grammar, the way the swars are negotiated, the phraseology derived from the characteristics of the thought or ang, that is the family of rags that they belong to, etc. Now, it is pertinent to note that India has not one but two established classical art music traditions. One is the Hindustani or the North Indian tradition, and the other is the Carnatic, practiced in the southern states of Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, and Karnataka. However, two apart from these two, there are several other regional art music traditions like Odissi Sangeet, Gurmat Sangeet, Sopan Sangeet, Manipuri Sankirtan traditions, etc. The Carnatic music is one of the most ancient music systems in the world and can be said to be a combination of Vedic and Tamil concepts. It is amazingly systematic, sophisticated, and appeals to both the heart and the intellect. It is remarkable that Carnatic music, while being amongst the most scientifically evolved systems in the world, has managed to absorb desirable aspects from several other systems of music and adapt them with an enviable liberality of outlook without in any way prejudicing its originality or individuality. Example, the assimilation of instruments like violin, guitar, mandolin, as well as rags and styles from the Hindustani music. Sant Purandar Das is considered as the father of Carnatic music, who is said to have laid the fundamental structure of this music and its pedagogy, that is, its teaching methodology. It is mostly composition oriented and gives equal importance to rag tal structure as well as lyrics or sahitya. It incorporates a good balance of pre-composed elements, which is called as Kalpita Sangeet, and disciplined creative improvisations, which is called as Manodharma Sangeet. Carnatic music has several song formats like Varnam, Kriti, Padam, Swarajati, Javali, Tillana, etc. Tyagaraja, Muthuswami Dikshitar, and Shama Sastri are acclaimed as the trinity of Carnatic music, who composed hundreds of high quality compositions in distinct styles, thereby taking the system to new heights of refinement and popularity. Carnatic music has been enriched by the works of several other composers like Swati Thirunal, Papanasan Sivan, uh, Arunachala Kavi, Gopalakrishna Bharati, and several others. As regards the Hindustani or North Indian classical music, it is practiced in almost two-thirds of the landmass of our nation today, and is one of the most popular and respected music traditions in the world. Hindustani music as we know it today is the accrued result or the sedimented product of efforts of many races, professing many religions, and speaking many languages. It has undergone several tectonic changes and has given us a plethora of different forms like Drupad Damar, Khayal, Tappa, Thumri Dadra, Tarana, Trivat, Chatarang, etc. Like Carnatic music, Hindustani music has parallel thriving tradition of both vocal and instrumental music. It boasts of several eminent composers like Sadarang Adarang, whom we talked about earlier, from the medieval era to the modern era composer singers like Vishnu Digambar Puluskar, S.N. Ratanjankar, Raja Bhaiya Puchwale, Dinkar Kaikani, C.R. Vyas, Kumar Gandharva, Prabha Attare, Jitendra Beshaki, Arun Kashalkar, Ashwini Bhide Deshpande, and several others. A galaxy of vocalists like Ustad Abdul Karim Khan, Aladia Khan, Fayyaz Khan, आमिर खान, डी.वी. पलुस्कर, ओमकारनाथ ठाकूर, बडे गुलाम अली खान, मोगूबाई कुर्डीकर, हिराबाई बडोदेकर, परवीन सुल्ताना, किशोरी अमोणकर, गिरिजा देवी, and instrumentalists like Ravi Shankar, Ali Akbar Khan, Ahmad Jan Tirakwa, Allah Rakha Khan, Zakir Hussain, Vilayat Khan, N. Rajam, Amjad Ali Khan, Hari Prasad Chaurasia, Shivakumar Sharma, Bismillah Khan, and several others have enriched this music with their individual artistry. While there are similarities in Hindustani and Carnatic, there are many differences too. They are primarily in terms of the swara lagav or the method of rendering notes, vocal or instrumental enunciation, differences in the concepts of rag and tal, the relative balance of precomposed and improvisatory aspects, the instruments used, the instrument ensemble or Vadyavrunda as we know it, formats and forms of presentation as well as engagement of the audience. Now let us move on to our next topic about instruments, musical instruments. The primary instrument of music making is, of course, the human voice. But all instruments, including the human voice, have their own strengths and weaknesses, possibilities and shortcomings. Apart from the human voice, we have learned to create music using a variety of instruments or what we call as the vadya. Each instrument has its own voice and has evolved its own style, language, and repertoire, taking into consideration its unique opportunities and limitations. Indian music has a rich usage of instruments, both melodic or what we call as swaravadya, as well as rhythmic is what we call as talavadya in solo, accompanying, and orchestral vadyavrunda modes. Over the centuries, the early instruments have been refined, remodeled, and experimented upon to give us today a range of instruments that are capable of a variety of sounds, textures, and musical possibilities. Ancient musicology classifies instruments in four categories. The first is called as tantu or tantavadya, which are string instruments, or in the Western terminology called as the chordophones. Now, there are three types in that. The first is nakhaj or tatavadya. So, these are the instruments in which the string is uh, plucked or stretched. For example, the veena, sitar, sarod, tanpura. Vitatavadya means bowed string instruments. For example, the sarangi, violin, uh, and the third variety is in which the strings are struck with, say, a hammer. For example, the santur. The second category is the sushir or wind instruments, or what are called as aerophones. There are two types. One is the mouth blown, for example, the basuri or shehnai, and the second is where there is a bellow through the bellow is a bhata. So through the bhata, the wind is brought into the instrument, and then the sound is produced. For example, the harmonium. The third category is the avanadha or charmaja vadya, which are also called as membranophones. Uh, these are instruments that have a membrane, uh, typically made of animal skin. For example, the mridangam, khanjira, dhol, tabla, pakhavaj, chaugada, dhol, dholki, all these instruments. And finally, the fourth category is the ghana vadya or idiophones. For example, these are solid instruments that are made of metal or terracotta. Ghatam, morsing, janj, tal, manjera, kartal, jalatarang, kashtatarang, nalli tarang, all these are ghana instruments. And the fifth and the most recent category is, of course, electronic instruments. For example, synthesizer, in which the sound is produced using electronic circuitry. Now, melodic instruments, those that have the capacity to produce sustained notes comparable to the notes produced by the human voice, generally belong to the Tanta and Sushir categories, whereas rhythmic instruments generally belong to the Avanadha and Ghana categories. Let us now move on to the role of music in spirituality. Music has been an inherent part of various spiritual traditions globally because of its ability to impact emotions, create altered states of consciousness, and promote healing. Music holds a special place, of course, in Hinduism, going beyond just entertainment. It is a key part of religious rituals and philosophical thinking. The Vedic chants, which are crucial to Hindu ceremonies, show how sound is used to connect people to the divine. In Hindu tradition, music is a way to reach a higher state of awareness. This concept has influenced Hindu beliefs and worship for a long time. Music has been used by all religions in varied degrees in liturgical or what is called as upasana sangeet or ritualistic music, devotional or what is called as bhakti sangeet traditions, along with its celebratory usage in the mystical or what is called as gudhatma traditions. For example, the Bauls, the Sufis, the Nathapanthis, the Marfat sect in the Muslim Islamic tradition, etc. Anahad or Anahat Nad is the primordial, omnipotent, omnipresent cosmic sound, an unstruck and unheard vibration which can only be heard in certain states of yogic consciousness. Ahat Nad, on the contrary, is intelligible sound which which the senses of an ordinary person can register. Nad is also called as Nada Brahma, the supreme reality manifested through sound. The chanting of the potent Omkar plays an important role in any sadhana in Indian philosophy. When we look at different ways music is used, such as the moving bhajans that inspire devotion, or its important role in festivals and important life events, we see that music deeply affects the Hindu faith. When people sing bhajans, they do it not only for themselves but also to create a sense of community. The Kirtan tradition holds significance for not just being a religious congregation but as a vehicle for bringing about social and attitudinal change in society. There are also certain aspects about music and its usage in meditation, the contribution of music to the world, the preservation of music, and the future of music, which will be dealt in the PDF of that will come along with this session. So, thank you, students, for being patient listeners, and I hope this helps you for your examinations. Thank you.